Welcome, welcome. I'm Maddie. I'm your Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan Wellbeing Coordinator. And today we're going to be making like two variations of peach crisp. One's going to be a little lower carb. One's going to be just a more higher carb content. So you can pick and choose which one, whatever meets your diet's needs. It's very quick. It's very easy. And then I'm going to share some little secrets to how you can kind of top it afterwards without having to use ice cream, to also kind of make it just a little bit healthier, especially because we're in that peach season right now. We're getting towards kind of the end of it, but so what we're going to start with is that I have two dishes, 13 by 9 pans of peaches, and I also have some nectarines in there that I had left over that were starting to kind of get a little more ripe. So I mixed those in there. They're all cut up, not like perfectly, because you know how when you cut up peaches and stuff when they're soft, it's not always going to be easy. I lined it, greased it with coconut oil, so that's all in the pan. I have my oven at 350, warming up. So I'm going to start by making the more lower carb peach crisp. So with that, and I'm going to use my blender for this one. So I have walnuts and almonds. So you can use pecans as well if you want. I'm just using two different variants of nuts just to kind of get a variety of those in there. But you can use pecans as well. You can also use cashews if you want something a little more creamier. Just depending on what your body deals well with. So I'm going to add, this is about a half cup of, I use salted. It's just plain salted sea salt almonds, just to add a little bit of like that salty sweet flavor. You can use plain. You can just use plain raw almonds in this recipe. I'm just using that to add that little salty sweet flavor to this. So I'm going to take those, and then I'm going to have a half cup of walnuts in there too as well. So I'm going to blend those up. I'm going to put my little topper on there. If you don't have a blender, you can always take the little trick of putting it into a Ziploc bag, sealing it up, and then crushing it with a cup, just going over the top of it, crushing it that way with a cup until it's kind of like into chunks. I'm just going to pulse this a couple times. I don't want it all ground up. I just want it into chunks. I'm going to kind of just mix it up too, so that not everything's towards the bottom. Oops, got some stragglers. Oops. As I did that, my little doodad kind of came out. Take two. This is probably why I don't have my own cooking show. We would have to do too many takes. It's not perfect. Okay, so take two. So we're going to put that faucet just so that there's chunks, kind of like this consistency. You can see there's some finer ground, and then there's some that are medium ground and some that are bigger ground. So I'm going to top it like that. It's going to also add some crunch. So I'm going to take this, mix this in my bowl. Now, for this part, you can use butter, or you can use, I'm using melted ghee. I do well with ghee, so that's what I'm going to use for that, but I also, you can use coconut oil too, for more of a vegan style recipe. So, I'm going to use, for this, it's going to be about a cup, or half cup, sorry, of melted butter, ghee, or coconut oil. Fourth cup, and to say, if I can get my measurements right, I'm always going off the top of my head. So it's a fourth cup of that. Actually grab a spatula, get it clean. Okay. So I have that. And then I'm going to add, you can use pumpkin spice. Some stores have pumpkin spice. I'm just going to kind of make my own little pumpkin pie spice, or you can just, if you don't like that, then just use ground cinnamon and nutmeg, and that's essentially what I'm using. So I'm going to use about a half teaspoon of ground nutmeg. If you don't really like nutmeg, you can omit it from the recipe. It's totally fine. And then I'm going to add about a teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay. I like my cinnamon. If you like less cinnamony, then that's totally fine. You can use maple syrup or you can use honey for this recipe. Totally up to you what you use. I'm going to use some honey. And you're going to add about a tablespoon honey. You can add a little more for if you want to add some extra sweetness to that. I always add a little drizzle on the end, so that's why I add a little less in the filling. So I'm going to drizzle it on the end to make it like get that caramely, brown, crusted flavor. You can also use chew to kind of sweeten it. Some people use stevia. You can use that too. Just add a couple drops of stevia to that as well. Okay, so now that's all mixed together. Awesome. So I'm going to just sprinkle this over the top. Doesn't have to be perfect. Drizzle just to really bring out the flavor in the peaches, or even if you're using apples, this can go for similar if you're using apples or another berry crisp or something. So a lot of drizzle just over the top of it very lightly, and you can also add a little extra butter if you want. You can omit it. It definitely doesn't need it, but it's just going to bring out some of that flavor. I very lightly drizzle, so it's not maybe a teaspoon of it over the top. So that is all set. Very quick, very easy recipe. If you want to make it even lower carb, add berries instead of peaches or nectarines. You can also use, since we're getting into that apple season, use apples with this. So kind of have fun with it. So that's your low carb version. Then I'll put it in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. Just until enough you kind of see it bubbling at the bottom. You see it bubbling up. Their peaches and nectarines are already soft compared to apples when you cook them. So apples, you want to make sure they get a little softer, and that's when you can kind of tell that they're done. But the top of it will be well cooked, a little lightly brown, crispy color. But take it out around 20-25 minutes, depending on your oven and how high it runs. So that's all done. This is what it looks like. Looks from the side. Very delicious. This one's going to be a little higher carb, and we're going to use oats for this recipe. So I'm going to take my oats. I'm going to use this bowl again. I'm going to add about a cup of oats to this recipe. Cup of oats. If you want it a little thicker, you can add more. I kind of like to see where I'm at, and then I'll kind of add a little more if I feel like it needs it. Then I'm going to add, same thing, a 1/4 cup of ghee. So really, I have to get some more of my ghee. Grab some more of that. This ghee is all homemade. It's a lot cheaper than buying it from the store. I'll do a cooking demo on how to make your own homemade ghee But this is all homemade. It's very easy to do. So I'm going to add that butter to that. And then I'm going to add my nutmeg again, same thing, same spices. So about a half teaspoon nutmeg. You can always decrease it to a fourth if you don't really like it, or omit it. And then a teaspoon of cinnamon. Same thing with the cinnamon. You don't have to add as much. I really like the cinnamon mixed with all the flavors. And then I'm going to add my honey, but you can also use maple syrup to this recipe. So I'm just going to use honey. So about a tablespoon of honey to this. Like I said, I always kind of add more on the end, kind of really help bring out the flavor. You know what, I'm going to add actually a half cup more. So for the oats, add about 1.5 cups of oats, I would say. You can add 2 cups. So I'm going to have just enough for that. Really get it all mixed in. Make sure all the oats are fully coated. Okay, so that's fully coated. So now I'm going to do, I'm going to sprinkle this over the top very lightly. Now, if you, like I said, if you want it thicker, add more oats. Then you might just want to add, if you want to like add more oats, add maybe a little bit more honey. You cannot overdo it, really mess up like the honey on there. It's just going to be a little sweeter. And with the cinnamon and nutmeg, always just go a little less than what you think, and you can always add a little more. You can just taste it. Do you like it? Do you not? So that's done. Then what I'm going to do, add more of my honey, just drizzling that over the top very lightly. Okay. And then I'm going to add some more ghee. So very lightly drizzling that over the top. And you can do, it's going to be the same if you use coconut oil. So coconut oil is, you can substitute that ghee or for butter or whatever you would want to choose for that. So that's the same thing, going to go in the oven for 350 for about 20-25 minutes, just until you kind of see the top of the oats get kind of golden brown, a little bit of crispy, and then you'll take them out. You'll notice the bubbles too at the bottom. And that's all you have. So higher carb, a little more crispy. This is a little more nuttier. So just depending on what fits your diet, what fits your flavor palette, but super simple, super quick. You can always too take the peaches. You can put the honey over them before you put any of the toppings to really make sure that the flavors are being brought out. I just like to do it all in one pan. So you can toss them, mix it with the honey, really add that extra sweet flavor. But I usually just kind of drizzle it over the top. So it's really kind of on preference. You can try both ways, let me know what you like, but super simple, super quick. So feel free to message me, let me know how you like it, let me know how it turns out. You can do the same thing, add berries instead to it, or you can add berries to the peaches, that would be fun. But also apple season's coming up, so adding apples to that as well, or switching them out would be another good idea. So hope you enjoy these, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks for joining me today, and have a good rest of your day.